So, imagine a strategic confrontation measured in hundreds of billions of dollars. Energy cutoffs, diplomatic severance, defense realignments worth $500 billion. Now, look at a $37 million port deal in Halifax, Nova Scotia. 37 million. In the context of global economics, that is a rounding error. It is less than the cost of a single F-35 fighter jet. It is less than the annual road maintenance budget of a mid-sized American city. It is less than the catering for a major military exercise. Yet this single investment just triggered a genuine operational panic in the White House. Not from a military escalation, not from a political revolution, not from a legislative shift, but from a piece of infrastructure smaller than a luxury apartment block. American East Coast ports are now projected to lose $40 billion in annual shipping revenue over the next decade. 14 major global shipping lines have already optimized their routes to bypass the United States entirely. Every port, every customs office, every square inch of American jurisdiction has been neutralized for $37 million. Hit subscribe, because what happened next is the moment the world's most powerful economy discovered that its leverage means nothing when someone else controls the door. Big doors swing on small hinges. Washington is blinded by scale. They focus on the $100 billion trade deficit. They track the movement of carriers. They monitor the deployment of divisions. This is a systemic monitoring failure. They assume power is only exercised through volume, through magnitude, through sheer force of capital. They monitored the energy grid. They monitored the defense packs. They completely ignored the routine maintenance of a regional logistics hub. This is the ultimate operational blindness. Washington believes trade is governed by policy, by executive orders, by tariff schedules. They are wrong. Trade is governed by physics. It is governed by the depth of a channel, the speed of a crane, the efficiency of a rail link. While Washington was weaponizing the law, Ottawa was optimizing the geography. They were not looking for a headline. They were looking for a shortcut. The dealer mindset focuses on the transaction, the immediate price, the visible win. It ignores the underlying position. Washington treated the North Atlantic Trade Corridor as a given, a permanent American asset. They assumed shipping lines had no choice, no alternative, no exit strategy. They believed their regulatory reach was absolute. They thought they owned the ocean. But commerce does not have loyalty. Commerce has math, and the math in American ports began to fail. Look at the data from the American East Coast, New York, Savannah, Norfolk. These are legacy systems. They are burdened by chronic congestion, high labor costs, aging infrastructure that requires $17 billion in deferred maintenance just to stay functional. These ports are high-risk nodes. They are subject to regulatory volatility. They are subject to political shifts. Every tariff announcement is a delay. Every policy change is a bottleneck. Halifax is the inverse. It is a natural deep water harbor, 16 meters at low tide. No dredging required. No tidal restrictions. Year-round ice-free access. It is the closest major port in North America to Northern Europe. It is the shortest path between two continents. Washington looked at the $37 million price tag and saw a minor upgrade, a routine maintenance project, an unremarkable line item. A sovereign auditor looked at the location and saw a gateway. They saw an aging, over-regulated, and increasingly unpredictable American port system. They did not need $1 billion to compete. They only needed $37 million to provide the one thing Washington could not offer: reliability, speed, physical certainty. They did not build a new world. They simply activated a natural advantage that Washington was too distracted to defend. They ignored the small hinge. Now they are watching the door slam shut. Washington focuses on the press release. Ottawa focuses on the annex, the fine print, the technical memorandum, the legal framework that nobody reads. $37 million did not just buy cranes. It bought integration. It bought a digital standard that functions as a silent barrier to entry. 19 nations, 14 shipping lines, one unified logistical protocol. Germany, France, Japan, India, South Korea, the Netherlands. All signatories to a specific partnership framework signed on the same day the port deal was announced. While Washington's monitoring systems were searching for massive capital shifts, the real move was happening in the digital bureaucracy. This is the invisible architecture. It is a system of preferential shipping agreements. It means guaranteed berth priority. Partner vessels dock first. They load first. They depart first. It means digital pre-clearance. Cargo manifests are verified electronically at the point of origin. Regulatory compliance is settled before the ship even leaves the dock in Shanghai or Rotterdam. Compare this to the legacy American system. 36 hours of physical inspections, 72 hours of manual paperwork, unpredictable regulatory audits. It is a systemic bottleneck. In Halifax, the cargo moves from ship to rail in under 4 hours. Not a suggestion, a contractual guarantee for partner nations. The deal was filed in public federal databases. It sat in routine infrastructure files for months. No classification, no secrecy, just obscurity. Washington's monitoring apparatus is calibrated for the loud, for the sudden, for the massive. It is not designed to flag a logistics facilitation treaty bundled with a dock modernization. The architecture is invisible because it is bureaucratic, it is technical, it is boring, and in a strategic confrontation, boring is the ultimate camouflage. By the time the White House trade team realized the annexes contained international treaties, the digital systems were already integrated. The protocols were already set. The trap was already locked. They weren't looking for a trade corridor. They were looking for a construction project. They found the concrete. They missed the code. This is the physical redirect, a total rerouting of the North Atlantic trade architecture. Washington built a wall of tariffs. Ottawa built a transcontinental bypass. The corridor works with the cold precision of a circuit board. Goods from Asia, electronics from South Korea, manufactured components from Japan, textiles from India arrive at Pacific Canadian ports. Vancouver, Prince Rupert, locations that were quietly upgraded over the preceding 18 months. These goods do not enter American jurisdiction. They do not trigger American customs. They are not subject to American tariff volatility. They move by rail, 3,700 miles of dedicated corridor. Canadian National and Canadian Pacific lines, a transcontinental artery entirely within Canadian sovereign territory. It is a land bridge that connects the Pacific to the Atlantic. It connects Asia directly to Europe. The goods arrive at Halifax. They are loaded onto vessels operating under the preferential agreements. Customs are already cleared. Duties are already calculated. Documentation is already verified. Door to door, Shanghai to Rotterdam, through the Halifax corridor. The math is unambiguous. 3 to 5 days faster than routing through any American port, 15% cheaper in total logistics costs, and critically, zero political risk. This is the ultimate strategic redirect. Commerce does not care about national pride. Commerce does not care about political rhetoric. Commerce cares about the path of least resistance. Washington created the resistance. They created the tariffs. They created the delays. They created the uncertainty. Ottawa provided the path. For $37 million, the United States was removed from the equation. $150 billion in annual shipping volume is no longer an American asset. It is a Canadian transit. Entirely legal, entirely physical, entirely unreachable by American regulation. Washington thought they were controlling the flow. They discovered they were merely watching it pass. Infrastructure does not negotiate, it endures. Let us look at this through the lens of pure capital. Enter the philosophy of Warren Buffett, the ultimate auditor of value. Buffett said he has spent 70 years looking for asymmetric opportunities, small investments that produce outsized returns. That is what investing is. Finding the position where a modest amount of capital deployed in the right place at the right time produces returns that are orders of magnitude larger than the investment. He said he has never seen a more asymmetric move than this. $37 million to redirect the trade architecture of the North Atlantic. Not a trade deal, not a negotiation, a masterclass. There are two kinds of people in business, dealers and investors. A dealer watches the price. How much does this cost? How much can I charge? What is the spread? A dealer lives in the transaction, in the headline, in the visible win. An investor watches the position. Where does this sit on the board? What does it connect to? What does it unlock if I own it? Washington is a dealer. They watch tariff rates. They watch trade deficits. They watch dollar amounts. They watch the big visible numbers that make headlines and fill press conferences. Ottawa is an investor. They watched the position. They looked at a mid-sized Canadian Atlantic port and saw what nobody in Washington saw. That Halifax, upgraded with the right digital infrastructure and connected to the right treaties, was not just a port. It was a choke point. And a choke point, once activated, is worth more than the entire economy that flows through it, because the economy cannot function without it. Every economy runs through choke points, ports, rail junctions, pipeline terminals, fiber optic landing stations. These are the points where commerce concentrates, where volume must pass, where geography and physics create bottlenecks that cannot be bypassed. Control a choke point and you control everything that flows through it, regardless of who owns the goods, regardless of who set the tariff, regardless of who has the bigger economy. The lesson. Washington should learn from this is that trade power is not about the size of your economy. It is about the choke points your economy depends on. And if you do not control them, someone else will. $37 million bought a choke point, and now the most powerful economy in the world is rerouting around it. Washington tried to control the price. Ottawa controlled the door. The dealer watches the margin. The investor owns the hinge. Washington just shorted their own credibility, and the market always calls the margin. That is not politics. That is physics. And physics does not care about the size of your economy. Washington learned the truth too late. From a financial newspaper, not an intelligence briefing, not a diplomatic cable, not a sovereign monitoring report. The information was never classified. It was never hidden. It was simply unread. It was filed as routine poor administration, a strategic planning breakdown of the highest order. The response was immediate. The response was frantic. The response was useless. Emergency subsidies for American ports, diplomatic pressure on shipping lines, regulatory threats against the corridor. Every proposal suffered from the same structural flaw. Too expensive, too slow, too late. The Halifax corridor is operational now. The shipping lines are rerouted now. The agreements are signed now. Washington is proposing solutions to a problem that was solved by someone else 18 months ago for $37 million. Back in Ottawa, a quiet press conference, no theatrical triumph, no geopolitical declarations, no signatures of anger. Mark Carney is asked about the strategic intent, about the lockout of the American system. He does not provide a long explanation. He does not offer a heated defense. He simply smiles. Big doors swing on small hinges. 6 words to explain $40 billion in redirected revenue. 6 words to define the end of a North Atlantic trade monopoly. 6 words to describe the power of position over scale. Washington spent hundreds of billions on a trade war to prove their dominance. Ottawa spent $37 million to bypass it. The tariffs made headlines. The port deal made history. Power does not matter when you do not control the door, and the door was built, locked, and operational before they even knew it existed. The following broadcast is a strategic projection and analytical commentary based on current economic and geopolitical infrastructure dynamics. It does not depict real-time events and is intended strictly for educational and investment analysis purposes.